In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there is one name that is synonymous with wealth in Penang. All we have to say is as rich as Boon Siew. So, as rich as Boon Siew is always how we would describe a person that is wealthy, because the name Boon Siew or Loh Boon Siew is synonymous or the benchmark for wealth in Penang. Hello everybody, my name is Timothy and I want to welcome you to the Learn Penang Hokkien YouTube channel, a channel where I'm retracing our historical figures of Penang, and it's a series of videos that is so difficult to make because it requires so much research on my part on the story that I want to put together, as well as the imageries, the pictures. Every picture that you see in this video tells a story about the person. Not this video only, but also the previous videos that I have done, the one on Lim Chong Yu, Chung King Kui, Chung Tai Ping, Ko Lei Huan, Ku Tian Tek, and so on. All this requires a lot of research, and so I wish I could make it a little faster, but this is the speed that I can go to put all the research that I've done into a video that has a prologue, 12 chapters, 12 full-length chapters, and then an epilogue. And today is my privilege to present to you this video on Tan Sri Loh Boon Siew, which in Penang we always associated with wealth. So that's where we see it. And today in the year 2025, we are celebrating the 30th year since Tan Sri Loh Boon Siew left us. And so at this time, 30 years after he leaves us, I hope that this video can stand as a reminder to us about Loh Boon Siew. Many of us will always say, Loh Boon Siew, oh, as rich as Loh Boon Siew. But for all the people that he has touched, all his employees, the temples and the association that he has been involved with, is not just as rich as Loh Boon Siew, but also as kind-hearted and as generous as Loh Boon Siew. And so with this video, I want to present to you a story of a man who, despite being so fabulously wealthy, does not flaunt his wealth, but continues a lifestyle of great gentleness and humility. And so, without further ado, let's go on to the story of Tan Sri Loh Boon Siew. Prologue, the man who put Malaya on wheels. The streets of Penang hum with the sound of engines, a symphony of life and motion. From narrow lanes to coastal roads, the little Honda Cup zipped by, carrying school children, shopkeepers, and workers alike. For decades, these motorcycles have been part of Malaysia's heartbeat, practical, affordable, and enduring. But behind this transformation stands one man, Loh Boon Siew, a mechanic turned mogul, a visionary who brought mobility to the masses and earned the title Mr. Honda of Malaya. Born into poverty in Fujian province, he arrived in Penang with nothing but his determination. From fixing bicycles to selling second-hand cars, he built his empire piece by piece. Yet, his greatest contribution was not measured in wealth, but in how he changed everyday life for ordinary Malaysians. How did a penniless immigrant become the man who put Malaya on wheels? How did one dream reshape a nation's road to modernity? This is the story of Loh Boon Siew, a man of great vision and humility, whose life reminds us that great revolutions often begin with a simple spark of determination. Chapter 1, From Fujian to Penang. What drives a boy with nothing to dream beyond survival? The story of Loh Boon Siew begins in Hui An County, Fujian Province, China, where he was born in 1915 into a poor farming family. Life in the rugged coastal hills of Fujian was harsh, and like many families of that era, the Lohs looked southward for hope. When Boon Siew was just 12 years old, he and his family left their ancestral home, boarding a junk bound for Penang, then part of British Malaya, a land that promised opportunity but demanded greed. The Penang they arrived in was a bustling port city filled with rickshaws, bicycles, and the clatter of colonial commerce. But for young Boon Siew, it was a place of toil. His family was penniless, and survival meant taking whatever work he could find. He began collecting garbage for the Georgetown municipality, earning a few cents each day, money that went straight to supporting his family. It was hard, dirty work, but it taught him the dignity of labor and the value of every cent earned. Even then, Boon Siew's sharp eyes and restless hands revealed a mechanic's instinct. In his spare time, he tinkered with bicycles and later apprenticed at a motor workshop where he learned the craft of repairing engines. The smell of grease, the hum of engines, and the satisfaction of bringing machines back to life, this became his classroom and his future. Those early years were marked by hardship but also by determination. He lived simply, saving every coin he could. He often patched his own clothes when hungry so he could put aside a few extra cents, and dreamed of one day running his own workshop. As others saw only struggle, Boon Siew saw opportunity hidden in labor. Every broken part was something to learn from, every job a step towards independence. By the time he reached adulthood, Loh Boon Siew had built not only his skills but a reputation, hardworking, reliable, and honest. The boy who once emptied the city's trash bins was now fixing the engines that powered its growth. From the grind of Georgetown's back streets, a spark of ambition had taken root. From hardship grew determination, the seed of a business empire that would one day transform a nation's way of life. Chapter 2: Learning the Trade. How did repairing bicycles lead to building an empire of engines? In the bustling heart of Georgetown, amid the clang of tools and the smell of oil, young Loh Boon Siew found his calling. After years of collecting garbage and odd jobs, he began working as an apprentice in a motor workshop where his sharp instincts and tireless work ethics quickly set him apart. He had no formal education in engineering, only a curious mind and the determination to learn by doing. Every broken bicycle, every sputtering rickshaw engine became a challenge to be solved. Loh studied the way parts fit together, memorized the sound of well-tuned engines, and learned how to stretch limited tools and materials to their fullest potential. Soon, word spread through Georgetown that there was a young mechanic who could fix anything and do it honestly. In those days, Penang was a city of small tradesmen, tailors, tinsmiths, carpenters, each mastering their craft in the hope of a better future. Loh stood out among them for his curiosity about machines that went beyond the bicycle chain or the rickshaw wheel. He dreamed of something greater, machines that could change how people lived and moved. It was around this time that he began to build and repair used cars, a daring move for a man of humble means. With his keen eye and mechanical expertise, he restored old vehicles and sold them for a profit. Each sale added to his savings and, more importantly, his understanding of the business world, of supply, demand, and customer trust. From grease and grit came mastery and vision. Loh Boon Siew was no longer just a mechanic, he was becoming an entrepreneur who could see the road ahead long before the engines of his dreams began to roar. Chapter 3: The Entrepreneur Emerges. When opportunity arrived on four wheels, was he ready to seize it? The end of the Second World War brought a new dawn to Penang. The island, like much of Malaya, was battered but buzzing with life again. People were rebuilding homes, reopening shops, and seeking ways to move, literally, from the darkness of war into a brighter, mobile future. Roads once patrolled by soldiers were now filled with bicycles, trishaws, and the occasional automobile. Transportation became not a luxury but a necessity, and in that demand lay opportunity. For Loh Boon Siew, who had survived the war years with grit and ingenuity, it was time to rise. He began importing and reconditioning used cars, many of which were brought in from the United Kingdom and later from Japan. With his intimate understanding of engines, Loh was able to restore these vehicles to near new condition, selling them at affordable prices to a market hungry for mobility. His reputation grew rapidly. Customers trusted him because he was more than a salesman. He was a mechanic who could understand what he was selling. Every car that left his hands bore the mark of his meticulous care. Penangites came to know him as a man who could make the impossible work, old engines running like new, broken vehicles reborn. By the late 1940s, Loh's business had grown beyond the back lanes workshops of Georgetown. He established the Boon Siew Motors Company, a formal enterprise that reflected his growing stature in the motor trade. It was a bold step from craftsman to corporate leader, and it signaled that the humble mechanic was now a full-fledged entrepreneur. Timing could not have been better. As Malaya entered the 1950s, its economy expanded rapidly under post-war reconstruction. Roads improved, rubber and tin exports boomed, and a new middle class began to emerge. People wanted cars, lorries, and eventually motorcycles, symbols of freedom and progress. Loh saw it all coming. His sharp business instincts told him that motorization would define the next generation of Malaya's growth. Yet, he also understood a truth others overlook. Not everyone could afford a car. What the people needed was a machine that was affordable, reliable, and easy to maintain, something that could carry families, workers, and traders across towns and kampongs. That realization marked a turning point. The world was shifting from 4 wheels to 2, and Loh Boon Siew was already watching Japan, where a new kind of motorcycle was revolutionizing transport. And the machine was called the Honda Cup. Chapter 4: Meeting Soichiro Honda. What happens when two visionaries meet across cultures? By the mid-1950s, Loh Boon Siew had built a modest fortune and a sterling reputation in Penang's motor trade. But he was restless. He saw how ordinary Malaysians still struggled to afford transport and how imported European motorcycles, BSA, Norton, Triumph, were far beyond the reach of the working man. He longed for something different, a small, sturdy, economical machine that anyone could ride. Then came the whisper from Japan, a country once ravaged by war, now reborn as an industrial powerhouse. There, an engineer named Soichiro Honda was manufacturing lightweight, affordable motorcycles that were taking Asia by storm. Loh's curiosity was big. Few in Malaya yet trusted Japanese products, still associating them with the bitter memories of occupation. But Loh was not one to follow the crowd. Where others saw risk, he saw potential. Defying the skepticism of friends and business partners, Loh boarded a plane for Japan, a bold move at a time when few Malayan businessmen ventured there. He arrived in Tokyo with little more than determination and a translator. And soon, through a series of introductions, he found himself standing face to face with Soichiro Honda. The two men could not have been more different in appearance. Honda, the engineer and inventor, dressed in workman's clothes and radiating a spirit of restless creativity. Loh, the Penang Tauke, with grease under his nails and an unshakable smile. But in that meeting, something remarkable happened. They recognized in each other the same essence, self-made men who had risen from poverty through hard work and vision. Loh spoke of Malaya, of its crowded streets and kampong roads, of rickshaw pullers who dream of speed and independence. He described a tropical land eager for change, a place where mobility meant freedom and opportunity. Honda listened intently. He was impressed by Loh's passion. He grasped the local realities and his willingness to take risks. The meeting ended with a handshake, one that would change both their lives. Loh became Honda's first distributor in Malaya. He ordered an initial batch of motorcycles, paying for them out of his own pocket. When they arrived, he found to his surprise that they came without manuals translated into English. So he and his team painstakingly translated every instruction sheet themselves, one page at a time. That handshake between a Penang mechanic and a Japanese engineer became the seed of a partnership that would transform Southeast Asia straight. And as the legend goes, when Soichiro Honda later visited Malaya, he told reporters that Loh Boon Siew was more than a business partner, he was a kindred spirit. That meeting would soon put a whole country on two wheels. Chapter 5: The birth of Boon Siew Honda. How did one product become a cultural revolution? In 1958, a quiet revolution began in Penang. Loh Boon Siew officially founded Boon Siew Honda Sendirian Berhad, sealing his partnership with Soichiro Honda. From a humble garage operation, Loh's dream took corporate form, a company that would change how Malaysians lived, worked, and moved. At first, few believed that small motorcycles from Japan could find a market in Malaya. But Loh had faith in the Honda Cup, a compact 50cc motorbike that was cheap to maintain, easy to ride, and durable on rough kampong roads. He believed it was the perfect vehicle for ordinary Malaysians, clerks, hawkers, fishermen, and rubber tappers alike. When the first batch of Honda Cups arrived in Penang, Loh priced them affordably, far lower than British or European models, and marketed them with a slogan that spoke directly to the people. Everyone can afford a Honda. It was not just a tagline, it was a promise. Loh arranged easy payment plans and personally convinced dealers to carry his bikes. He demonstrated their reliability by riding them himself around Georgetown's busy streets and rural back roads. He even reportedly trained mechanics personally, ensuring every repair shop could service the new machines. The results were astounding. Within a few short years, the Honda Cup became a common sight, a badge of independence for the working class. For the first time, office clerks and hawkers could travel freely without relying on buses and trishaws. Housewives could ferry children to school, farmers could bring produce to town. The humble motorbike reshaped the rhythm of daily life. Loh's marketing genius lay in how he localized the brand. He didn't just sell motorcycles, he sold freedom and dignity. The Honda Cup wasn't merely a machine, it was a gateway to mobility and modernity. He reinvested his profits into establishing a full-fledged assembly plant in Penang, making Boon Siew Honda one of the earliest local automotive assembly operations in Southeast Asia. Soon, the name Honda became synonymous with motorbike in Malaysia, much as Kleenex is to tissues or Xerox to photocopiers. As Loh once said in an interview, "I wanted every kampong boy to own a bike, not to show off, but to work, to live, and to dream bigger." With success came expansion and the making of a national brand. Chapter 6: Building an Empire. By the 1960s, the name Loh Boon Siew had become inseparable from Honda and from Penang's economic heartbeat. From the narrow shop laws of Georgetown to the bustling roads of Kuala Lumpur, Boon Siew Honda dealerships began to dot the map of Malaya. Every new branch meant more than increased sales, it meant new livelihoods. Mechanics, clerks, drivers, salesmen all found opportunity in a company built on will and willpower. But Loh was not content to stop at motorcycles. To him, business was never just about profit, it was about improving lives. With steady earnings from Honda's success, he began diversifying his portfolio. He purchased valuable real estate across Penang, from shophouses and warehouses to parcels of industrial land, and expanded into transport and logistics, anticipating the infrastructure needs of a rapidly developing Malaysia. Perhaps his most ambitious venture was in hospitality. In the late 1960s, Loh built one of Georgetown's first modern high-rises, the Merlin Hotel, later known as the Bayview Georgetown, Penang. Featuring a revolving restaurant atop its tower, it became a city landmark and a symbol of post-independence confidence. Loh saw in Penang's future not merely a port or provincial town, but a cosmopolitan hub open to the world. The hotel's elegant modernist design reflected his belief that Penang could rise to global standards while retaining its local warmth. To his peers, Loh was a shrewd and instinctive businessman. To the public, he was Mr. Honda, the trusted face of reliability. His companies were admired for integrity, wages paid on time, workers treated with respect, and promises kept. Many employees recall how Loh would appear without notice at workshops and dealerships, dressed simply, greeting mechanics by name and inspecting machines with a craftsman's eye. He believed that trust was a company's greatest asset. A man's name, he often said, is worth more than a company's logo. His reputation was built not only on his business acumen, but on his honesty, discipline, and moral uprightness, qualities that make Boon Siew synonymous with integrity throughout Malaysia. By the late 1960s, Loh Boon Siew had become one of the wealthiest men in the country, yet his lifestyle remained humble. He dressed plainly in white shirts, drove himself to meetings, and preferred hawker food over fine dining. Friends remember his simple office, his handwritten notes, and his quiet manner, the same traits that mark him as the hardworking immigrant who once collected garbage on Penang streets. Still, beneath his modesty was an expansive vision. Loh understood that an empire built on wheels must also rest on community. His success was never an end in itself, it was a means to help others move forward. As his businesses thrived, so did his determination to give back, not only to charity, but through jobs, education, and a sense of pride for Penang. The story of Boon Siew's empire was not just about motorcycles and money. It was about mobility, the power to move, to grow, and to connect people across class, race, and geography. Through his companies, Loh Boon Siew helped turn Malaysia's roads into arteries of modern life. His empire grew, but so did his heart for his community. Chapter 7: Philanthropy and Faith. When success is achieved, what duty remains? Loh Boon Siew's wealth was immense, but his generosity was greater still. A devout Buddhist, he believed that prosperity carried a sacred responsibility to help others and to nurture goodness in society. Throughout his life, Loh quietly funded temples, schools, and hospitals. He contributed significantly to the expansion of the Galaxy Temple, one of Penang's greatest symbols of faith. His name was closely associated with the Malaysian Buddhist Association, where he served as a benefactor and advisor. Through such institutions, Loh channeled his success into spiritual and social upliftment, supporting initiatives that blended compassion, education, and public service. Those who knew him often recall how humility guided his giving. He shunned publicity and focused on quiet, lasting impact, from supporting hospital wards to endowing scholarships for poor students. He was known to personally visit charitable projects, ensuring that funds reached those most in need. Loh's philanthropy transcended wealth. It was rooted in a worldview that linked business, faith, and compassion, a belief that one's prosperity must serve humanity. In doing so, he left behind not just a business empire, but a moral legacy that continues to inspire Penang's Buddhist and business communities alike. To give back and to uplift the community that raised him. Chapter 8: Partnership with Penang's Leadership. What happens when business and leadership share the same dream? In the 1970s and 1980s, as Penang entered a transformative era of modernization, Loh Boon Siew stood alongside one of its most influential leaders, Dr. Lim Chong Yu, the Chief Minister of Penang. Their friendship was more than social, it was built upon mutual vision and respect. Both men were self-made, pragmatic, and deeply committed to elevating Penang's economy and people. When Dr. Lim launched the Free Trade Zone initiative in Bayan Lepas, a bold move that would redefine Penang's industrial landscape, Loh was among the first to recognize its potential. He lent his support in practical ways by ensuring transport networks were developed, vehicle supply chains were established, and Penang's growing workforce could move efficiently between homes and factories. His business acumen complemented Dr. Lim's policy foresight, creating a synergy that strengthened Penang's industrial foundation. Loh's influence extended quietly into advisory roles, where his counsel was valued by government officials and fellow entrepreneurs. He represented the model of a responsible capitalist, one whose enterprises advanced not just private profit but also public progress. Their partnership marked a golden chapter in Penang's development. Dr. Lim envisioned an island of industry and innovation. Loh helped make that vision mobile, quite literally, by putting the engines of growth in motion. Together, they stirred Penang into modernity. Chapter 9: Character and Legacy. How does a man stay humble amid fame and fortune? Despite his towering success, Loh Boon Siew remained disarmingly simple in his habits and manner. While others flaunted their newfound prosperity, he continued to drive modest cars, often seen behind the wheels of an old Mercedes or one of his own reconditioned Hondas. To him, wealth was not for display, it was for purpose. He dined at hawker stalls across Penang, chatted casually with food vendors who called him Tai-lo with both affection and respect. He never abandoned the dialect of his heart, Penang Hokkien, even in meetings with top officials and foreign partners. His workers adored him not only as an employer, but as a father figure, one who valued loyalty, fairness, and effort above pedigree and education. A devout Buddhist, Loh frequently quoted proverbs about impermanence and humility. He believed that good fortune carried a duty to share, to guide, and to live without arrogance. His generosity was quiet and constant, flowing naturally from his worldview that success must serve others to have meaning. Friends and family would later recall how he lived in a comfortable but unpretentious home, refusing extravagance even when he could easily afford it. In his simplicity lay a powerful message that greatness is measured not by wealth or status, but by gratitude and grace. His modesty became part of his legend. Chapter 10: Honors and Recognition. Can success be measured by money alone? By the 1980s, Loh Boon Siew faced a changing business landscape. The economic ties of Southeast Asia were shifting, competition in the automotive industry was growing, costs were rising, and the younger generation of entrepreneurs was entering a new, more globalized market. Yet, through these challenges, Loh remained steadfast. He diversified his ventures, adapting to the times while maintaining the values that had built his empire: honesty, diligence, and perseverance. Despite market fluctuations and modern competition, Boon Siew Honda continued to dominate Malaysia's motorcycle industry, its name synonymous with quality and trust. Under his stewardship, the brand became an integral part of the nation's industrial fabric, a machine not only of transport but of transformation. The Malaysian government recognized his immense contributions to the nation's progress. Loh was awarded several state and federal honors, including the prestigious Panglima Setia Mahkota PSM, which carries the title Tan Sri. These accolades reflected the country's acknowledgement of his role in shaping Malaya's post-war economy and empowering ordinary citizens through affordable mobility. Yet, when asked about his greatest achievement, Loh always answered with humility. "My wealth is only meaningful if it helps others stand on their own 2 feet," he said in an interview. For him, success was not defined by the titles before his name, but by the livelihoods he helped create, the mechanics, dealers, and factory workers whose futures were transformed by his vision. Through trials and triumphs, Loh Boon Siew remained the same self-made man from Fujian who once repaired bicycles by lamplight. The honors were merely symbols. The real legacy was in the movement he inspired, both mechanical and human. For him, true wealth was independence for himself and for others. Chapter 11: Later Years. What remains when a lifetime of effort comes to rest? Even in his twilight years, Loh Boon Siew remained the same hands-on man who once repaired bicycles in Georgetown's back lanes. Age did little to slow his sense of duty. He continued visiting his factories, walking the assembly floors, inspecting motorcycles, and chatting with workers. To many employees, it was not unusual to see the elderly founder strolling through the plant in simple attire, asking practical questions about production and safety, a leader who never lost touch with his people. Though his health began to decline in the late 1980s, his discipline and faith kept him active. He found solace in Buddhist teachings and continued to support charitable causes quietly, believing that wealth carried a moral responsibility. To the very end, he embodied humility, refusing luxury and preferring the company of longtime friends, temple elders, and factory supervisors who had been with him from the early days. As Malaysia grew into a modern industrial nation, he took pride in seeing Honda motorcycles, from the humble cub to the more powerful models, on every road and in every town. To him, each motorbike represented mobility, freedom, and progress, the very ideals that had driven his life work. On 14 February 1995, Loh Boon Siew passed away peacefully at the age of 79. His death marked the end of an era, but his spirit continued to live in every rumbling engine that carried Malaysians to school, to work, and to their dreams. Across Penang and beyond, tributes pour in from government leaders, business figures, and ordinary Malaysians whose lives he had touched. Newspapers describe him as the man who put Malaya on wheels. In temples across the island, prayers were said not just for a businessman, but for a benefactor who had uplifted his community with both action and compassion. Chapter 12, Legacy. How many lives can one man's vision change? By the time Loh Boon Siew passed away in 1995, his name had become inseparable from Malaysia's transformation. Millions of Malaysians, from factory workers to farmers, from school teachers to small business owners, rode Honda Cups, the affordable motorbike that had redefined daily life. In every town, every kampong, every bustling street of Georgetown or Kuala Lumpur, the steady hum of a Honda engine was a tribute to his dream. He had not merely sold motorcycles, he had changed a nation's rhythm. The Honda Cup made it possible for rural families to reach markets, for young men and women to commute to work or school, and for communities to stay connected across distance. In a developing nation finding its footing after independence, mobility was freedom and freedom was progress. The brand Boon Siew itself became part of everyday conversation. Malaysians didn't just say they were riding a Honda, they said they were riding a Boon Siew. The phrase carried more than commercial meaning. It symbolized trust, reliability, and the spirit of hard work. It reflected a legacy built not on extravagance, but on the simple promise that quality and honesty could live lives. Even after his passing, his company, Boon Siew Honda Sdn Bhd, continued to thrive, producing millions of motorcycles locally and employing thousands. His entrepreneurial model, built on perseverance, personal involvement, and moral integrity, remained a blueprint for Malaysian industry. In Penang, his adopted home, Loh Boon Siew's influence extended beyond commerce. His philanthropic foundations, his support of Buddhist institutions, and his contributions to education and healthcare continued to benefit generations. For many Penangites, he represented the very best of the island's pioneering spirit, humble beginnings, steadfast work ethic, and generosity of heart. Today, decades after his death, the sight of a Honda Cup still evokes nostalgia. It reminds Malaysians of a time when ambition rode on two wheels and of a man who never forgot where he came from a boy who had nothing to a man who moved a nation. Epilogue, the spirit of Boon Siew. In the decades since his passing, the name Loh Boon Siew continues to echo through the streets of Malaysia, not in monuments or speeches, but in motion. Every time a Honda Cup hums through a kampong lane or rushes through a Penang street, it carries within it a fragment of his legacy, the dream of a man who once arrived in this land with nothing but grit and faith. Boon Siew Honda remains one of Malaysia's largest and most trusted motor companies, a testament to his vision and perseverance. Its continued success is not merely industrial, but cultural, a living tribute to the self-taught mechanic who dared to dream beyond his means. In Penang, where it all began, the spirit of Loh Boon Siew still feels tangible. It lives in the quiet pride of factory workers, in the smiles of delivery riders, in the freedom of a youth's first ride. To generations who never met him, he remained a symbol of the possible, proof that a man's beginnings do not define his limits. He built not only machines but opportunity, and through that, dignity. He showed that progress can be both personal and shared, that success is best measured by how much one uplifts others. His life stands as a mirror to the virtues that built Malaysia itself: perseverance, integrity, humility, and the courage to move forward. He gave Malaya its freedom, not through politics, but through the open road.